So, thanks for coming this evening. So, we're going to talk about this evening is the just focusing on the application form for the Community Climate Action Programme. Many of you have already met, but for those who I haven't, I'm Susan Lee. I'm the Community Climate Action Officer. There are my contact details. So, if you have any questions, that's where you can reach me. Now, this evening, as I said, I'm going to really focus on completing the form for applying for the programme. We've had previous webinars on the overview of the programme, and then we had one a little later about project planning. So that one the project planning one, I would really recommend people take a look at. That was about 45 minutes and it was really looking at it in depth. So this one, I'll make little references to it, but I'm going to really just focus on the form itself. And everything is available on our webpage. So waterfordcouncil.ie/community climate action programme. Now, there are a few things that I want to say before you even think about looking at the form. There's just a few things I want to mention. First of all, really keep in mind the programme objective, and that is to shape and build low carbon sustainable communities. So I would expect that in everyone's application, they will at least say that sentence once, because it's the real focus of this fund. And please read the guideline document. So it's up online and it's called the briefing guide. It covers everything to do with the programme and it goes into detail about the evaluation criteria. Also, it's a really good idea if you can summarize your project in a few sentences. So who you are, what you want to do, where you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, how much it's going to cost as well. Like if you can get that into a really small paragraph and really tightly know what you're going to be able to do, then the application form will be a grand. You'll just be expanding on those points. But a lot of times you find when people can't get an idea down to being able to explain it really simply and shortly, it's that the idea isn't kind of firm in their mind. And keep in mind as well, when you're filling out the application form, that you are going to be explaining it to someone who hasn't a clue who your group are. They might, but they might not, and they won't know what your project is. So I'm not going to be on the evaluation committee, so I won't be scoring any of you. I will be there with them answering their questions, but these are going to be people who haven't met you like me. They might not know what you're doing. So just make sure it's always really clear and concise. And then what the language you use, just use plain English. You don't have to use any big buzzwords. It's not the aim of this. And we're not really expecting to see very heavy technical knowledge and language. Again, this is a community-based programme. It isn't the aim of it. If you can mention relevant bits, but we don't need loads of jargon. The word count. So it's meant as a guide. Now don't go over it, but if you can go under it, that's great. If you can use fewer words to get your point across, that is brilliant. And at any time of this application window, right up till 3:30 p.m. on the 19th of January, please get in touch if you have any questions. So they're just a few little kind of general bits. So before we go looking at the form, but I just want to really have a quick moment to look at the evaluation criteria, because that is really pulling from the application form. So projects are going to be selected, and there's going to be 3 steps basically to get selected that you're going to have to go through. So the evaluation committee is going to look at everybody's application form and they're going to score them against the criteria, which you can see on the screen there. I would say that it's almost the exact same for strand 1A. The key difference is relevance and impact. You have to make a reference to shared island initiatives. And also under partnership approach, you have to score a minimum of 5%. So everybody is going to be scored. Everyone has to reach a minimum of 50% and the minimum requirement. So that means, say, undervalue for money, you're scoring 10% out of the 20. If you don't hit it, then your project wouldn't be eligible. So everyone must score the minimum of 50 to be considered eligible. And then the committee is going to look to make the final selection based on the geographical distribution, that we want to fund a load of different projects across all 5 programme themes, and if it's in line with the council's climate objectives. So in theory, it's not exactly going to be the highest scoring we'll get through, because say if there's an amazing small town somewhere in Waterford, 5 different groups choose to apply all separately, they all score in the 80s and 90s, then they're not all probably going to get picked because it's not fair geographically. So just kind of bear that in mind. Probably it will be the high scoring getting through, but still just those things will have to be considered. And it is the minister who has final approval. Now, the evaluation criteria. So this is all available in the briefing guidelines. So you can get all the details there. So it is, say it is 30, you're getting 30%, 30 marks for relevance and impact. That has been broken down to give you an idea of where you can get the marks. So everybody is going to be marked against these, as well as the small grants. And you will see that there are specific questions on the application form that clearly relate to the evaluation criteria, but the committee will award you marks if you addressed it somewhere else. So I would say try and hit it in each question, but if you've hit it somewhere else, you might score marks in other places. So under relevance and impact, that is basically going to make sure that your project is on point for this programme. There's an obvious direct climate action, there's real change, it's impactful, there's no greenwashing, and you're contributing to Ireland and Waterford's climate and energy targets. And then the relevance. So again, what I've said to every group, the more themes you hit, the more marks you get. So that's the reason, like, you're going to get 2 marks for each theme you hit. And if your reference to the UN SDGs, that is an easy 1 mark for everybody to get, to just reference which UN SDGs you're going to be addressing. And in the briefing guideline, I have listed which UN SDGs would be relevant for each theme. So there's a lot of stuff there that can kind of help you. Innovation and scalability, this is all around. We'll go into this a bit more detail later, but just to say that relevance and impact, innovation, scalability, value for money, they're the kind of the 3 big ones. Now we also have achievability. That's kind of more like your milestones. You've got partnership approach, and then your governance. We'll go through that so you can see how each mark will break down and where you're going to get it. So the actual forms themselves. So there's a few ways you can fill it out. So you can do the online form, which is the recommended one, which is the one I'm kind of going to be looking at most this evenings. Or what you can do is you can download the Word version from our website, and you basically fill it out and you can email it in or you can post it in. Regardless of which form you choose to use, the online form via submit.com or go with email and post, everyone has the exact same deadline, 3:30 p.m. 19th of January. The online form is really good because what you can do is you can save the form as you go. Other people can log in and see it. I can see it as well if you want me to take a look at it. There's things like that, and you can upload all your documents, because if you do it via email, you're just going to have to think, because there's often a limit on how much you can attach in your email. And if you've got a good few documents, you might need to put it in a compressed file. It's just, it can be a little easier to do the online one, but everything is accepted. And if you post it in, your application must be stamped on or before the 19th of January. So if you're going to using submit.com, it is easy, but the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to register. So very simply, you'll go to waterfordsubmit.com, you'll click register, then you'll be asked to put in your email address, your email and your name, and create a password. So now what we would advise is, if your community group has an email address, like just for your group, please use that. We understand that not all groups have that, so you can use your own personal one, because there is going to be a question like name your group, so that should be that's fine. But if you can, please use the email address you have for your group. It just keeps it all neat and tidy. And then after you've registered, you can log in then and you can see the form. And this is where you're going to see the 4 forms, and you just pick. So you select the form based on the grant size you're applying for. So if you're going for a small one, you'll click Strand 1 small grant. Now be careful on picking the sizes. So medium and large will fill out the same form. Small have a different form, but there's also the 1As. So Strand 1 is what I think 99% of people are going to be applying for. This is just your group in Waterford doing a project in Waterford. Strand 1A is the Shared Island or the Northern Partnership Programme. So that's going to be when you have a partner group in Northern Ireland that you're doing a combined project with. Again, this is going to be very few people. So they pick the 1A if you're doing Northern Ireland, Strand 1 if you're just doing a simple, not a simple, the projects are still quite hard, but if you just, it's just you in Waterford. So a little thing about navigating it. So it's submit. It's very easy and handy to use, but in case some of you haven't used it. So when you log in, on the right, you're going to see a panel, and that's going to show you the list of the sections and the questions. And you can, if you click those, that'll drop down. You can see the individual questions and you can click into them. You can go back to the previous questions by the back button. Next will bring you to next, and there's 41 questions on the form. Now, great thing about using Submit is that you can jump in and out of it over right up to the 19th of January, but you can say save and quit and it'll save all your work. Please do not just X out of it, X out of your browser, because it won't automatically save. So click save and exit, and then when you're ready to submit to us, you click submit. And the only reason, if you're having problems submitting and I won't let you do it, it is because there's some compulsory question you haven't answered, and it'll stop you doing it and then highlight the question you need to go and look at. Now, if you don't want to do submit, the other option is to download the Word version. So you'll go to waterfordcouncil.ie, Community Climate Action Programme, scroll down to the How Do I Apply section, and then you'll be able to see the Word documents there you can download. You can download them in English or Irish. Again, just make sure that you pick the right size. And if you're going with strand 1 or strand 1A, just make sure you pick the right one. So regardless of what way, you choose to do the application form and submit to us, everybody has the same 5 sections. The first section is telling us all about your group. The second section is going to be about the project. Third section is the just really short 3 state aid questionnaires. The fourth section is just going to be any supporting documentation. And then the fifth one is just a really simple declaration where you just need to sign it. Small projects have an ever so slightly smaller application form. I would still say though it's 90% the same, it's just a bit smaller. So I am going to be focusing on strand 1, medium and large, only because for the small and the strand 1A, they're almost identical forms, and I'll point out if there's any differences. So actually, before we go any further, what I might do is I might just show you a few bits of where to get everything. So Community Climate Action Programme, you just enter it in, that is the page. So there is all the details. There's the briefing note and guideline for applicants. So this is the document that has every single bit of information in it about the programme. That's where you can get that.
We don't have that, unfortunately.
Document and the presentations that we've run on it. And then how do you apply? So there's where you get the Word versions. And then this will actually also bring you straight to that's going to bring you straight to the submit.com options. Now, what I'm going to just do there now is, before we go any further, does anyone have any questions on just accessing the form? No, everyone's good? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we will go through an example. We're going to look at the forms in more detail. Now, and what I'll do is actually, I'll go through it as if I was somebody applying, because then you'll see exactly what I would see. So this is, I'm going to go with a medium large strand 1. Can everybody see that? Yeah. Okay, so the front first page just kind of has all the details. Let me move this out of my own way. Okay, and then because I've been in here earlier, I'm just going to continue. Now, and I'm going to go back to the very first question, because actually when you say save and exit, it will bring you back to the question you it'll bring you back to the question you ended on. So have you talked, that's the very first question you're going to see. All groups are encouraged to speak with myself before they submit an application. It is not compulsory, it's just something I'm actually here to help groups, and that's the only reason the question is there, so you can say yes or no. Okay, so the very first section is going to be tell us about your group. So this is just the very basic questions about your group. So the first one is the name of your group. So there you just put down the name of your group and you just click next, or you can that button or next, they both work. And this is the email address. So this is the email people would generally use to get in touch with your group. Again, hopefully you do have just a generic group email address. And then you're going to pop in your address. So this is the address of your community group. If your group doesn't have a specific address, like some groups, say like Tidy Towns, might not have a specific address, what you can do is you can just list the town or village or geographical area that you kind of work in. And if you don't have an area code, you can just write NA. The next question is super simple, just when were you established? And then this question is just, we want to know what the purpose of your group is. And so this would be where you very briefly describe what your group is. And actually I should say that although I'm going through this on the application, I'll have slides which basically I have listed every single question and what we're looking for underneath it. So you feel free to take notes, but everything I'm saying I'll be sending on to you tomorrow written down. So say if it's a sports club, a badminton club, you would just simply write down sports badminton club. If you're a Tidy Towns group, you'd be like, we are a Tidy Towns group. That is just very simple. We just want to know what your group does. Okay. Now, the next question is, the next few questions are basically all eligibility check questions. So the first one, is your group a not-for-profit? Yeah, you simply tick yes or no. So everyone who's applying should be yes, because it's a key thing about eligibility is you have to be a not-for-profit. And then the next thing is about set up your group. Is it registered with the collective? Do you hold articles of association, hold the AGM? Basically, this is to understand if your organization can be funded. So we'll need a bit more info about how it's set up. Again, this is just a really short overview. So for example, are you a sports club registered with the PPN? Or do you have a management company or the board of directors? Are you registered as, so just kind of give us the basic thing of, we're in the PPN or we're not in the PPN, but we are set up legitimately. Now, in the next question, then that's where you're going to go into more detail. So this is where you're going to set out the governance arrangements. So this is basically where you're going to simply tell us how your organization runs itself. What's its structures in place so that everything runs smoothly. So who's involved, maybe who makes decisions, how you manage your finances. They've got 100 words to do this. So it's that we clearly understand the governance arrangements for your group. So here's a few examples that I didn't finish them, but I just kind of started typing them. That idea of like, say if it's like, we are a local GA club with a 5-person committee consisting of a chairperson, a secretary, a treasurer, a liaison officer, and a general officer. We have a specific group bank account, we hold an AGM, and have attached our minutes. We have financial and management structures in place, and then you go into a bit of detail. Or we're a Tidy Towns group. We're elected every year with an AGM. Or maybe you're like, we're a registered charity with the board, a constitution, and financial statements available. This is just so that we understand the governance structure of your group. And then in the next question, you're going to be asked to attach the supporting document for that. So basically, to upload your documents, you just click the little, so I've already uploaded one here. And actually a good point, something I didn't do, which is please do, is when you are putting in a document, please put your group name in the file as well. And if you want to check, so if you click into one, you'll be able to see what it is there. And if you need to say if you upload one and you want to take it down, you just click the little bin symbol and then you can delete it. So say if I want to upload one and this file, I'll say, this is my governance document for test community. I am going to upload that one, and that's it. That's all you got to do. That's how easy it is to upload the stuff. And you can upload a good few documents there if you have a few things. So you might also want to maybe upload your AGM, your last AGM minutes so we see them. And then you can see in your documents, you've uploaded 2 documents, and then you can go through them 1 and 2. So that's just simple things I think. And then the next question is, this again is still an eligibility question. We just want to know, is your group location in Waterford? Yes or no? Again, everyone should be yes who is applying to the Waterford Community Climate Action Programme. Now, then if your group has any website or social media, just send us the links. But I would like to stress that it is not compulsory, nor is it more advantageous to have an online presence. It's just something we might look at. That's all. Now, so the next section then, these are just some status questions on your charity, your tax, and your PPN details. Again, these are just some blurbs that everybody's aware of it, that we will only be paying successful groups into their group account, no personal accounts, and the VAT situation. If your group can reclaim VAT, your costs should not be including VAT in this grant. So you basically then just say yes or no to certain questions. So is your group registered for VAT? Yes or no. Your charitable status. Some charities will be applying, some won't be. If it's not applicable, you just write NA. If you have a PPN number, pop it in. Your tax reference number, this is this kind of like your tax ID. This is going to be how the revenue identifies you. And it'll be included in any communication they have with you. Your tax clearance access number, this is typically issued by the revenue to say that you're tax compliant. I think you do have to apply for that one. So you'll kind of answer those. And then simply, we just want to know who the point of contact is for the application. So I would say in most situations, the person filling out the application form will be who I'll be in touch with if I've got any questions, or when I'm to tell you if you have or haven't got funding, that's going to be the person. But so you can just write them. So here we'll write down a name, and then are you the contact person? So in case the person filling out the form isn't going to be the one answering the questions, maybe they're off on a beautiful holiday for all of January, February, and they won't be around if I've got questions, then you can put somebody else in here. It'll be that question is connected to who kind of sets up the registry form. So if you're the same person, you say yes. If you're not, say no, you can say no, and then you can add in their details. And then basically the next question is, what's your role? That's pretty simple. And then your address. Now, if your group has an address, you can pop that in. If it doesn't and you're comfortable giving us your home address, that would be great. Obviously, all personal data will be protected and never shared with anybody. And then we also want your phone number, because I might actually, have a quick question for you. So that's all section 1. So that's just about your group. Now, section 2. So this is 4 sections. It's got your project summary, basically what you're doing, your dates and locations, your project costs, your project benefits, and your management. This is the longest section of the whole form. It's a good few questions. There's a word count on many of the questions. Small grants, so that's everybody applying for under 200,000. There is a shorter version, but you are addressing the same areas. Although you don't have as many individual questions, you will be looking at the same thing. And actually, I will say one other thing on section 1 for the Strand 1A applicants. Basically, you'll get all the same questions, but for your Northern Ireland partner. That's the only difference. So you will have more than 41 questions in total. So tell us about your project. So the first thing you're going to do is basically, we want to know which one you're applying for. Are you applying for medium or large? So medium is 20 to 50, large is 51 to 100,000. So if you've got a project that's 33,000, you'll be picking medium. And I would just say one thing about the form. So say you're like, oh, whoops, I picked medium by accident. You have to untick it, and then you can pick the correct one. So if you find something you can't tick or untick, that's just, you have to untick it first. Okay, so the next question is tick the relevant program themes you're looking for. So this is the 5 program themes. And just basically you tick whichever ones you're looking at. So for example, if you're installing, say, solar panels and you're putting in a bike parking station, you're going to tick theme 1 and 2. And please tick all that apply to you. Some people will be picking all 5. Some people will be picking 1. Just make sure you hit them all. It just makes it quicker for the evaluation committee to see what you're doing. And then the next question is, describe your project. So this is where we just want a super clear description of what you're actually going to be doing. So what actual works are happening, what actual things are being bought, and what community members are maybe taking part. So this is basically, we just want to know what the project is, not necessarily overly why it's happening or what's in relation to climate action, nothing quite like that yet. This is just what is going to be happening. I would say if you're doing any energy works on a building or anything, tell us a bit about the building. When was it constructed, current installation, things like that. If you need planning or licensing for anything that you might be doing, no harm also mentioning it here if you have it or you're in the process of getting it. And in this, it might be necessary to put in some details about the background of a program if it's necessary. So you can kind of pop it in here. So I've written up an example of one here. This is just an example. You do not have to repeat this. You do not have to do it like this. It's just an example of what a group could do. And I just wanted to point out that, like, I can clearly see in this example what exactly the project is. So say in this example, it's our centre, they were built in 1925. Installation was carried out 3 years ago. As advised by an energy audit, the gas boiler will now be replaced with an air-to-water heat pump, and 9 kilowatts of solar power will be installed on the south-facing roof, including a 6 kilowatt battery. Once this has been installed, we're going to organise an energy event with our Sustainable Energy Community Mentor and Waterford Council's Climate Action Team. This event will be for the community to ask questions and see practicalities and benefits of moving away from fossil fuels and switching to renewables. Our chairperson and treasurer will be managing this from procurement to installation. Planting a 65-metre long native Irish hedge along the back west sector, as recommended by the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. 75% will be whitethorn and the remaining 25% will be made up of crabapple, hawthorn and wild cherry. One of the coaches will be overseeing this and the local under-12 soccer team will be assisting with the planting. Signage will be included describing the species and biodiversity advantages to increase awareness and education among our members. A maintenance plan will be developed for these trees around cutting and weeding. Bike parking dock will be installed in front of the community centre to support members to cycle, not drive. A monthly carpool and cycle day will be developed to reduce emissions and encourage active travel. Our treasurer will be managing this part of the project. Adult cycling classes will be run in conjunction with Waterford Sports Partnership. A monthly closed repair cafe will be set up, run by volunteers to encourage reuse and repair. This will require the purchasing of a sewing machine and storage equipment. Our chairperson will manage this. So in this example, we know it's buildings 1995, the installation is good, they're getting a heat pump, solar panels, they're putting a battery, they're putting native planting. We also know the species and why they picked it. If you can pop it in, it's just no harm. Bike parking is going to be there. We also know the extra bits that they're going to be also doing around those things about the days and the cycling classes and the monthly repair cafe. So you have a 300-word max limit. This one is just telling us what the project is. And you can see so I'm just seven words under it. Very good there. Now I put it in bullet points. You don't have to. You can edit it. You can edit the form quite easily. You can bold it, italic it, underline it. So you kind of have freedom to work around that. That is just an example of how a project could be described. You don't have to do it like that. I just want to make it clear that it does need to be clear what you're going to be doing. Now, the next question then we get kind of slightly easier. We're going to just want the date. So when will your project begin? So for some people, it's going to be as soon as the funding is available, we can start. But for other people, say if they're doing a small planting project, they might just be doing that December to January. So they might have a specific date in mind. So just tell us when you're going to start. Some people will need the full 18 months, others won't. And then give us an idea of what your end date will be. So in this rough, mad example I picked, it'll only require 8 months. That's all they want. They will have 18 months, but just to give us an idea, you can take the full time and that's fine. Now, so we know when it's going to take place. So we just need an idea. This is just the air cuts. So basically, this is super easy for anybody who has a building and land or anything like that. There are other people who might be doing it in a few locations. So I'm just going to say that I'm doing this in one location. So I'll say, so indicate the number of project locations in Waterford that have an air code, just one. And you just click one and next, and then it's going to bring you to a map where you can zoom in if you want, or if you have an air code. So what I'll do is I'm just going to put in, say, the council building in Dungarvan. That's where I'm going to do it. And then you see the little red flag has come up and you click next. And that's it. If you're doing something somewhere that doesn't have an air code, because there's an odd few situations like that. If you're doing maybe planting on public land, what you can do is you could say, I'll say in this example, I'll say I've got one space that doesn't. And you click next. And then I'll just say I'm doing something at Tronamo in Bunmahan. It'll bring me to it. I'll just say we're doing something at the beach. Once the box is there, it's set your place and you can click next. And if you want to check that your location is set, if you click, so I just click back and then I can see the red dot. So that's simple. And if you think, oh shoot, we have a second location, you can click back again. You would say 2. I see here, so you have to untick. I'd say, oh no, I need to put a second one in. Now, you'll see this unselecting. There are some questions that kind of how you answer will depend on what you see next. So if you see this, you just click yes if you've meant to change something. That's no problem. And then, so I'll say I'm doing it then at the entrance to Bunmahon. So we pick Tronamo as one spot, Bunmahon as the other spot. So I'll say, we'll zoom in and I'll say I'm doing something at the Geopark. And then you click next. And then, so if you actually change the second location, if you change it to 2, you'll have to write in your, you'll have to write it, oh, I don't see it the second time. You'll have to pick it twice if you change it. Okay, and then the next question, this is going to be all about your project costs. So this is, you're simply going to put in the quotes you got. So you'd pick the amount you'd put in would be the supplier you would kind of prefer to go with. So say in this example, tree planting and materials going to be that amount. The solar panel, you'll just write in what it is. Sewing equipment, signage, bike parking, and it'll all it'll tot it up for you at the end. Just make sure it that does add up to what you think it should. Now, so you can write in 11 items here. If your project is kind of big and you have a few items you need to list, what you can do is you can add more. When you say next, you'll be asked, do you want more lines? So if you click no, the brand, you won't get another table. If you click yes, then you're going to be shown an area where you can add in more items. For Strand 1A projects, all the quotes must be provided in euros. Just bear that in mind, they won't be in sterling, and you'll be asked to put in costs for yourself, and then you'll be asked to put in costs for the Northern Ireland partners. So they will be 2 separate tables. Now, then a question you're going to get is just the VAT question. So we just want to know if the figures you've put in on the table include or exclude VAT. So again, if you can reclaim your VAT, your quotes should be excluding VAT. So I'll just say here that ours include VAT, because in my hypothetical situation, my group can't reclaim VAT. So the grant will cover it. And you click next. And then this is where you're going to upload your quotes. So I'll say that. I'll say, now in your quote, please put your group name. So I'll say Test Community Group, going to be my very inventive name I came up with for this. Test Community Group, solar PV quotes from 3 suppliers, and then 3 suppliers. You can upload the quotes separately, or you can put them, really merge them into a PDF, whichever suits you best. We're fine either way. And then once you put up all your quotes, you'll click next. And then you're going, so this is going to update, this figure is going to pull from whatever you had popped into the table. Now, the total project cost should probably be that. Now, the amount of funding requested, you might be like, why can I just write any number? Some people, the amount of funding requested basically is the amount of money that you are seeking from the Community Climate Action Programme. This amount may be different from the total project cost. A difference could be kind of for a variety of reasons. Some expenses may not be eligible that you've listed, and you know that, so you're not going to ask for them, or you have match funding somewhere else, so you know part of it is, say 40% of it is being funded from another source. But I'm going to just say in this example that we want the full amount of the grant. So I'll just write that in, and that's all you have to do, and you click next. Now, this question, this is about the bridge financing. So this grant is reimbursement grant. So you spend the money, and then you get the money back once we've seen the receipts, the invoices, the bank statements, and we've seen it's all taken place. But Waterford Council can provide bridge financing or pre-funding for groups who do not have a pot of money to do this, or they won't be able to go get access bridge financing themselves externally to do this. Pre-funding will only be given out in agreed amounts, so it'll probably be something around the 25% mark, so nobody will be given 100% pre-funding. So we just kind of want to get a sense during the application stage of where each group is at. So if you won't require bridge financing from us, you tick yes, we will have sufficient funds, or we will be able to secure bridge financing. If your group won't be able to secure bridge financing, or they don't have the money available, you tick no. And if you don't know, you can click unsure at time of application. It will not impact your application, whichever one you pick. This is just for us so that we know what's going to be required bridge financing wise. That's all. And for anyone who is successful getting funding, they'll be asked follow-up questions of that much later on. So this is just to give us an idea to us. It doesn't impact you at all, really. Well, your evaluation. Now, the next question. So this is the biggie. So there's going to be a few questions here where there's basically, you're asked to write sentences on different topics. So relevance and impact. So outline how the project is relevant to the purpose of the grant to shape and build low carbon communities. Again, that sentence, that is the whole objective of this programme. So comment on how the project will contribute to Ireland and Waterford's climate and energy targets. So there's 500 words. You can write that for this. And relevance and impact, that has the 30 marks are going for this. So I've just written up a few examples of what you might put for this. So again, you would probably write a good bit for each component you have, but I just kind of want to give you a few examples of kind of how you should be thinking about this. You don't have to write it word for word, but we just want it to be clear how your project ties in with the programme to shape and build low carbon communities. So it's basically the chance where you get to say really clearly what you're doing addresses climate change, or how your community will be less carbon intensive at the 18 months. And if possible here, I would mention the UN SDGs. Again, it's a simple 1 mark you can get. So say in this one, example 1, our project looks at theme 1, community and energy. Our goal is to reduce our tennis club's energy emissions by replacing our oil boiler with a heat pump and solar panels. This would eliminate the use of fossil fuels in our club, and 35% of our energy demand would be from renewable energy. This would contribute to Ireland's overall energy efficiency and renewable energy targets. As our club is based in the city boundaries, we will be helping to achieve Waterford City's aim to decarbonise by 2040. Our project would mainly address UN SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy. Number 13, climate action. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. And number 3, community health and wellbeing. So that's just one. Say the repair cafe one. I'll just jump through because I will send you all these examples that you can have a little read of. So our repair cafe hits on 2 important climate action targets, the circular economy and just transition. Our repair cafe will create a local circular economy, reducing waste and keeping perfectly good items in use for longer. The area our group is located is in a socially and economically deprived area as per the Pobble Deprivation Index. So our project is also a just transition project. So it's really kind of just saying which targets, which themes you're looking at and what targets you're looking at. Again, I'm here to help every group with that. So give me a shout if you want to talk about that. And I would also mention your UN SDGs. So that's the relevance and impact. It's basically, why is your project the climate action project? Okay, the next question, innovation and scalability. So ideally projects should be innovative and scalable. And so many communities can learn from each other, and that something that you do is going to be maybe able to be repeated in Tipperary in 3 years' time. So there's loads of things that we can learn from other groups. So the innovation could be maybe a clever way that you're solving a problem, or a way that's making your project especially effective for your area, maybe a rural area, maybe an urban area. And also think, who can learn from what you do? What other locations can it be replicated? And also make sure in the section that you clearly describe the lasting impact of your project. So we'll have a little read of what one could look like. So you've got 300 words max for this. So our sports club is typical of other sports clubs across the country, many of which are not yet low carbon spaces. Our project will be a great blueprint for similar rural clubs on how they can take a holistic approach and be more low carbon and sustainable place. Our energy project will show how groups can improve their energy efficiency and decarbonise their floodlights, internal lighting and heating. We would write up a detailed case study document with the Waterford Community Climate Action Officer, so groups don't have to start from scratch in something similar, but learn directly from us. Our biodiversity planting could practically show what can be done with similar spaces, while still maintaining its primary use as a sports ground. Working with the locals' men's shed to reuse discarded pallets to make our rain planters is an innovative way to reuse materials in our community, engage other groups in local climate action. Or say, and another example, which would be a circular economy one, Our community reusable nappy scheme will be one of the few schemes in the country to tackle single-use disposable nappies on a community-wide level, including low-emission laundry. Our project will have 50 families and creches cut their nappy waste by 50% and create a family-led circular economy practice. Our project will be a blueprint for similar areas to replicate and scale up, as our area is typical of many suburban Irish neighbourhoods. So it's just kind of explaining what you're doing that's kind of innovative, if it's scalable, and also mentioning the long-term impact. Again, these wouldn't be fully fleshed out examples, they're just kind of points you might want to hit. Now, the necessity for grant funding. This question is very short, you only need to do 50 words on it. And this is basically where we need to know that the funding provided is absolutely needed by your group. And it could be addressing your current resources, costs of things. So basically describe how this funding is needed to either make the project happen, or to scale up something, or to increase the climate impact of something. So let's say, if we look at an example, say we're a very small community group with limited funding and monies. Without this grant, we would not financially cover the cost of switching from a gas boiler to a heat pump. That would cover that. So the membership fees, in this example, the membership fees we take in and other public funding we apply for only cover the basic running of our club. We do not have the additional funds to cover the biodiversity and recycling work. So again, just please explain why you need the funding. That's all that question is looking for. Now, value for money. So this one, because it's only some of them I've written up examples for. So this question is basically, we need to know that how your project is good value for taxpayers' money. That's simple as that. So it's not necessarily you pick the lowest cost, but the best balance between costs and the climate action results achieved. So here you're going to discuss how your project is sure it's getting good value for money from its purchases. You're going to comment on maybe how you got the 3 quotes. So you know that the costs you're putting in are in line with current market value. And if you have included a contingency amount, and this is especially important for bigger projects where you really should be including a contingency amount, you can include a line here about what you would do with any monies left over that you might have if the contingency isn't needed. Again, you've got 300 words here you can write. Now, achievability. So this one is basically how you know you're going to get it done in the 18 months. You got 200 words for this. So basically, here you want to outline how your group is going to deliver the project. So it's very important that when that committee see it, they understand your timeline for implementing it, as well as how it's going to be monitored. So I would say summarize your work plan into the major milestones. You don't need to do itty-bitty. I'd say just the major ones for your application. And also describe what information you're going to be getting to know whether your project is on track and it's going to deliver the results you expect, both to get a thing done, but also if you're to make sure your climate action initiative is working to make a difference. So in this example, they're doing a heat pump, planting solar panels, sewing machine. So it's the example from the project example section. So our proposed timeline for this project, Q4, they've broken it down, what they're going to get, the amount of funding they're going to draw down at that point. Q1, they say they're going to plant their hedges, they put in the solar panels, and how much of the grant will then be called on. Q2, they're going to do their bike parking, they're going to set up the repair hub, they'll get the signage done from the planting they did back in January. They'll also do their energy and cycle days in May, June, I'm assuming because the weather has gotten better. And then they're going to put in their vouched expenses to Waterford, and that will be 25%. So if you just had your plan was, we'll just get it all done, that it wouldn't be clear to the committee how you're going to do it. So that's just a rough plan. And then we will do a community online survey at the beginning, middle and end of the 18 months to see how many people repair, upcycle their clothing, and how many people are cycling to monitor change in behaviour. We will monitor the number of attendants at the repair cafe and the number of bikes being parked. If the numbers are low or do not increase, we will run a communication with. After the energy projects are done, because in this example they're doing a heat pump and solar panels, we will get an estimation of carbon saved from the installers. The under 12s will join the National Biodiversity Data Centre's pollinator monitoring programme to track biodiversity. The chairperson and treasurer will monitor the progress of all the components of our project and will stay in regular contact with the Community Climate Action Officer. So that just gives an idea to the committee how you know you're going to be able to achieve your project. And actually, oh, you can see I've gone 18 words over that. So there's some bits where you're going to have to whittle it down a little bit. Now, partnership approach. So this one is there's going to be maybe a few stakeholders taking part or benefiting from your project. So basically here, you're going to name every organization who's going to assist you with implementing the project and what roles they're playing. And in some cases, it could be the partner is delivering something very specific, like say the local men's shed are making the rain planters we saw in the earlier example. Or it could also be you're going to work with me, the Community Climate Action Officer, to do energy days. Or we might do something with the Waterford Sports Partnership around cycle adult classes. So it could be groups, or potentially in your area, you're putting in a joint application with a few groups from the one area. So this would be a space where you would name everybody and what they're going to be doing. For the Strand 1A, this question is going to be really important. And this is basically really going to be clearly saying what each group is doing and how you're going to do it kind of together. And then the last question that you'll have to write a bit of a paragraph for is your governance. So this is basically where we want to know your group has the experience and management to handle the project. So here would be also a really good place to just very briefly, you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but outline the previous projects that you've successfully completed, because I've met a good few groups now, and so many of you have already done loads of projects, have already successfully gotten loads of funding in other places. So maybe you mention it here. Have you gotten sports capital? Have you done 10 village, general community grants? Just kind of mention the positive other projects you've done. And also make sure there's a clear governance structure in place. So you'll already have answered that in section 1, but I would just make sure it's really clear throughout the application form. And then how is your group going to manage the project? So some groups, I know what they're planning on doing is they're going to create a subcommittee and they're going to look after the project. So who's going to be responsible for project implementation? Who's going to be responsible for being in touch with the council, with myself? Who's going to be doing the financials? Who's going to be submitting the veg expenditures? Just so that we know that your structure is in place, how you kind of keep track of those. Even the fact that you have your own, like you putting in a bank account, that you keep records of your accounts, all that is vital to just be clear. Now, and then, so that is section 2. So section 2 is the biggie. That's the one that is going to take you time. I'd say go down, jot down your notes, and then you can kind of expand on everything. And again, you don't have to hit the word count. If you can do it in less, that's brilliant. Okay, so section 3, this is the state aid. There's 3 very short questions you have to answer. So state aid, because I won't go into this in detail now because I've talked about it a few times at different webinars, but this is basically to ensure there's trade remains fair among the EU member states. So if you have to answer yes to all 3 questions to be considered state aid, and then the de minimis ceiling kicks in, where you can't have received more than 200,000 in the last 3 fiscal years. But for the vast majority, I would say 99% of groups, state aid is not going to be relevant to them, but you still have to answer the 3 questions. And only if you answer yes to all 3 questions do you have to answer section 3B. For most people, they're not even going to see section 3B. So I'll just go through the questions really quickly. So the first question is, does the funding confer an advantage of one or more undertaking over others? So the important thing here is undertaking. If your group has no economic element, so if you don't take in a single penny for anything, you click no to this, and then you click no to the next 2 questions, and you are done with section 3. So now I would say that if you have any economic element though, so if you charge membership fees, you have an economic element. If you sell a cup of tea, technically you have an economic element. So a lot of people, because of the membership fee thing, might be ticking yes to this one, but don't worry about it. Just if you have no economic element, you take no money from nobody, you are a no. If you do take money for anything, you take yes. So I'm going to say that we're yes in this example. The second question, does the funding distort or have the potential to distort? So if you have no economic activity, you're no to this. If you have something that's very localized and it doesn't really impact locally the economy, then you're no. If your economic activity has a wider impact and you're going beyond local, then you should be yes. I'm going to say no here in this example. And then the third one is, which most people are going to be noted, does the awarding of this funding have the potential to affect trade between EU member states? Again, if you have no economic element, you are a no. If you have an economic element but it doesn't and can't be traded with the EU, then you're no. If the economic activity could be traded, then you're yes. So a really good example, I think, is this. There's two kind of good ones. Say if you are a local GA club, you might be the most amazing GA club, you win everything, and you have a membership fee. That isn't really going to impact what sport a child is going to take up in a small town in France. It might impact what they'll join in your town, but not in France. It's not impacting trade in Europe. So you're a no to it. You're probably a no to the second one. So that's where state aid thing kind of comes in. But say if you're a social enterprise, or you're maybe a community centre who's renting space to businesses, then you have something on the market which could be impacting trade. So then you're probably yes, yes, yes. So in my example, I was no. So then you're just quickly asked, have you answered yes to all three questions? If you have answered yes to all three, you click yes. And you're going to be brought to section 3B, where basically you're going to be asked to put in the de minimis funding you've received before. It's a simple table. You tell us who gave it to you. Say it could be like Town and Village Renewal, 20,000, and when you got it. Now, but for most people, it is going to be no, you actually didn't tick yes to all three. You're going to see yes. And then because I've altered that question, yes there. And then you don't even see section 3B. If you have questions on your state aid, please get in touch. I would say most people, it is not a factor for them, but just get in touch if you have any questions. Now, section 4 is where you put in your supporting documentation. So if you do the online form, you've already submitted your governance documents and you've already put in your quotes. But say if you have something else you want to put in that you think the committee should see, you can put it could be something like an energy audit, it could be a biodiversity report you've had done, your Tidy Towns report, and maybe you are actually replicating something you've seen somewhere else and you took a photo of it and you want to show it, this is what we're going to be doing, to kind of just make sure it's really clear. You can upload it here. So what I will say is your governance documents and your quotations, they will be looked at in detail. The bits that you put here, what I can say is I can't guarantee the committee will look at them in detail. I think they'll have a scan through them. But so if there is something that you're putting in these documents that you just think, God, I really want the committee to look at that, make sure it's mentioned somewhere else. So say in this example, I'm just going to say I'm uploading an energy audit only. That's all I want to do. I click next, and then energy audit for test community group. And that's all you do. I uploaded it earlier. And then that is section 4. Now, again, you can upload, and if it's something else, like say if it's photos, or there's something there that I haven't mentioned that your community has, please put it in. And then click next, and then you're on to the final section, the quickest section, the declaration. So this is basically, by signing the declaration, you and your community group are confirming the statements you can see on the screen. Some of them are repeated from the general terms and conditions that are at the beginning screen, and some will be spelled out in more detail in your letter of offer if you do get funding. So basically, up to sign, so say I'll sign again, you just sign your name. In this example, I'm Jane Doe. I'm going to put in the date of today, and that's it. Now, when you click submit, now this isn't going to let me submit, so we'll see this now. And if I say, okay, you have one signature on this application, when you click submit, it's saying I can't submit because it's going to show me the questions that I haven't answered. So, and then, because you can see that I have like questions, this is a compulsory question and it's been left blank. So, when you have filled out everything on the system, you'll get an email then after you submit to say you've submitted, and you should just approve it. So that is everything to do with the application form. Now I know that was a small bit of a whirlwind, What I want to say is don't let the technicalities and rules put you off, or don't let the form. I've talked to many of you, honest to God, so many of you could write the form tonight if you had to, I swear to God. Climate action is a win-win for everyone. We want to see all project sizes, small and big. Actually, one thing before I go any further, for the people who are applying under small, I just want to show you your form, which is just a teeny bit different, but honest, you are answering the same questions. So say I'm not finished with this example, I'm going to say save and quit. And that's lovely, and it saved it for me. And then when I go back into it later, I'll see that. But say if I want to go back to the forms, and I'm just going to scroll down to the small form. So the small form, again, I was in here earlier, I registered, so I can I can see my application is 7941. I can go in, this is small. You have the exact same questions. You've got section 1 about your group, you've got 2 about your project. The difference with this one is instead of all those individual questions, you're just asked one question, 600 words. But you're still going to talk about your relevance and impact, your innovation, scalability, value for money, achievability, partnership approach, and governance. It's just there's less writing to do because it is just a smaller amount. And one actually other thing which is a little save a little bit of time for small projects is you have a list of things to pick from, because it's likely that you're going to be doing kind of these type of projects. So you just pick what you're doing. Now, if you're doing something that's not on the list, you can just click other and you'll be shown a screen where you can write what it is. So there's just the 2 differences. You don't have as big of a blurb to write about what your project is. And your section about the benefits and management is just consolidated and it isn't as much. So there's the difference. And strand 1A, again, the only difference is going to be you're going to have questions. Your section 1 is going to be longer. Because you're going to have to tell us about your Northern Ireland partner, and your questions are pretty much the same for section 2 about the benefits and the management. The difference is going to be you're going to have to make reference to the kind of shared island initiatives. Now, what I'm going to do is, that was a bit of a whirlwind, so I am going to I'm going to stop recording, and I'm going to